Okay guys, we've got our computer now, it's set up, you've got all the tools really that you need to get going at this stage. We can now buy the domain name. As it says here, it all really starts with a domain. Once you've got your business idea and I guess the business name, naturally following on from that, you want to buy the domain name as soon as possible. And especially for Australian businesses, it's really important to get the .com.au or the .net.au. Which one of those you use is kind of subject to the conditions, the availability. Uh, so let's just go ahead and put in here what might be a business name that you would use. So Pete's Parts. Let's say he's Pete's selling auto parts or something. You want to specify the .com.au. The reason you don't want just the .com, even though they're a lot cheaper, is firstly they're not Australian. You're just going to be kind of lumped in with a sea of billions of websites that are just .com, and you're not going to be specifically identifiable as an Aussie website. And the second reason is that anyone can buy a .com. You can buy a .com totally anonymously and set up any kind of spammy or unscrupulous website. Whereas to buy a .com.au, you need an ABN, and you need to provide that ABN when you buy it. And then when people do a lookup, they can find out who owns the .com.au. So it's transparent and it's reliable and it's identifiably Australian. So you definitely want to go for .com.au. Just punch in the name that you want and then click on search, and with any luck it'll be available. If it's not available, then I guess for example, if petesparts.com.au was not available, there's a good chance that someone had just bought it and is not even using it anyway, in which case you would just go to the next best option, which is .net.au. You don't need to buy the .net.au as well at this point, because let's face it, I mean, you're just getting started now. You're not really doing anything of value that people are going to try and copy or ride on the coattails of or steal your customers, because you don't have any customers right now. So let's just go with the bare minimum, a .com.au domain. Pay no attention to this $4.99. GoDaddy are always saying that things are on sale, and then later on they manipulate the pricing so that you end up paying the same regardless. Like, everything here is always on sale, and it's a bit of nonsense. They're cheap anyway. I don't know why they bother doing that. I guess it's some psychological marketing technique. So in addition to a domain, you want to get a hosting account. So this will allow you later on to set up a very basic website, and it will also allow you to begin setting up email addresses for your domain straight away. So check the hosting box there. You don't need this website builder. That's complete nonsense. And then under the package type, they've got 3 different kinds here. Economy I don't recommend at all, because it limits you to one website, and later on this could be a real pain in the butt. So I usually would advise you, I guess, to go for deluxe. The difference between deluxe and ultimate is really in the number of databases that you can have, and you don't really need that anyway. And premium DNS and SSL, these are things that we're going to look at later on. So for now, a deluxe account for $5 a month is really reasonable, and it will be plenty to get you started. So we're just going to leave it there at deluxe, and click on the little link here to continue to cart. Now here you can create a GoDaddy account, and you'll have to give them various details. So just fill out that form if you don't already have an account. If for any reason you already do have a GoDaddy account, then yeah, keep it simple, and I guess just log in using that account. But I mean, if that was the case, you probably wouldn't need this tutorial anyway. You could skip later on to the part where we're just adding email addresses and stuff like that. So I'm just going to log in now to my account. And so here I just have to enter the legal entity. Now this is where your ABN comes into play. You, in all likelihood, you're a sole trader right now. You've registered with the tax office as a sole trader under your own name. So your legal entity here will be, I guess, the business name that you've registered, and then you have to put in here your ABN. This stuff here about it being closely related to your activities. Look, as a sole trader, your activities are going to be many varied. I think you do have to kind of tell the tax office what the specific area of your services are going to be, but a website is such a broad thing. This really is just related to stop you from, or stop people from buying domain names that have nothing to do with their business and just sitting on them. Like, if I was to buy pepsiaustralia.com.au, it'd be pretty easy then later for Pepsi to say, look, this guy's business has nothing to do with Pepsi. He needs to relinquish that domain name because we need it. It's related to our brand. So it's really just a legal thing. You don't have to worry too much about that. Fill this in and then jump to the next step and we'll continue. Okay, so we're at the next step here, which is pretty much the checkout. And again, as I kind of alluded to earlier, this is where GoDaddy starts to change the prices a fair bit. They purport to be $4.99 per month, but that's on the condition that you take 12 months straight up. I would think that you would need that 12 months anyway. I mean, if you're going to start a business, you're going to be in business for at least a year. You have to give it a good go. So 12 months is not that bad. So $60 for 12 months is pretty reasonable. I would just go ahead with this, but I already have a hosting account and a bunch of domain names, so I'm not actually going to go and enter my payment details. I'm going to let you guys carry that step through yourselves, and then we'll jump onto another hosting account to continue after this, and I'm going to show you how to set up email at the new domain name that you've just bought and how to link that to your Google account and start using it. Okay guys, so after you've completed the checkout, you should be taken to a page that looks a lot like this, although you will probably only have domains and web hosting as the titles there. You don't need to do anything in domains. You can just go straight to web hosting and click on launch. So this will show you your hosting accounts, and at this point you might have multiple hosting accounts as I do later on, but you probably only have one at this point. I would just bookmark this page so that you can get back to it easily and call it GoDaddy Hosting. And then if you click on Manage, we're going to see something called cPanel next up. Now cPanel it's a web hosting system that you don't need to be massively familiar with. A lot of this stuff you don't need to use at all, but you should definitely be able to get back here to check on certain things. This is what makes everything work in terms of your website and your domain name. So it's really important that you understand how to get to this, what the credentials are, and so on, because if you want to outsource any of your web design work or any professional services really that will be related to your website, you're going to need to give them access to this. And I mean, even better than that would be if you know the fundamentals of how to do some things in this interface. So I'm going to show you that right now. We're going to do two things. First, we're just going to go here to add-on domains, and we are going to just check here that your domain that you want to use is in the add-on domains here, and if it's not, we're going to add it. You just have to type in the full domain there. So in the example we used petesparts.com.au. If you click outside of that, it'll automatically fill in, and then you can just give it a password. And again, this is where note-taking gets to be really important. So I would create a new note here, or rather I would go into my websites and create a new note and say petesparts.com.au, and here I would make sure that I note down the password that I use, or even better, because you're going to be using a lot of different passwords from here on in. I would just randomly create a password and then copy and paste that in. And as you can see, by randomly generating a password that has some capitals, some numbers, and then some lowercase, and it's quite long, I can create a very strong password. And then I just add that as a domain. It's going to not work in this case because I didn't actually go ahead and buy that domain, so I'm just going to back out of there. So once you've done that, then we can go down here to the mail section, and this is really crucial. Okay, so we're going to set up a forwarder. Click on forwarders here, and you can see I've already created a bunch of them. So what this is going to do is when people send an email to any user at the domain name that you've bought. So I guess as an example we'll use this one, bjjonline.com.au. It can forward to your Gmail address that you created before. So I'm going to pick which domain I want to manage with this, and even though I don't own it, I've been able to add it as a add-on domain, so just ignore that. I'm gonna use BJJ Online, and then let's say that that I want to create a user there called John, and then I want to forward that to the Gmail account that I created earlier. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Anyone who sends an email to john@bjjonline.com.au, that email will be forwarded to this address. So I'm just going to add that. I'll add that in and then go back. And you would repeat that process each time, selecting the domain and then adding a forwarder and then adding the name. So for public stuff, so for signing on to web services, I like to use a different email address, and that is so that if later on it just becomes that there's so much spam coming from this web address, I can selectively route that to perhaps a different account or a different mailbox. But you'll get into that later. At first you only need something fairly simple, but it's important, again, make note of these of the links and the process. Make notes of your own. It'll help you remember it, and it'll be more accessible to you. And of course, it'll be specific to your own path here. There's a lot of variables involved, and the chances of your process being 100% identical to what I'm doing here are pretty slim. So keeping your own notes is really vital.